Hey, how's it going, YouTube, Boxing family? It is K-Rod here. I'm back with another good video for y'all today. I'm not going to go over this article. I'm just going to, just basically, post it in the, in the video description down below. But for those of you that don't know, Tyszu expects Jermell Charlo to fight him. So basically, the quick rundown of this article was that Jermell Charlo, he had won undisputed, obviously against Brian Castano in their second rematch of their undisputed showdown. And Tyszu, he was basically saying, "Oh, Jermell Charlo, he's just a grumpy old man. He's like, he has all this explosive anger used for nothing." And basically, he was trying to talk crap about Jermell Charlo, saying that he would defeat him, and this would be that fight between him and Zoo will be his Zab Judah moment when his father Tyszu had defeated Zab Judah back in the past. To which Zab Judah at that time frame, we obviously know what the deal was. For those of you that don't know who Tyszu is, he is a son of Tyszu, to which Tyszu knocked out Zab Judah in the past to become the 3-belt holder of the 3-belt era for Undisputed at this time frame. So here is the resume of Zab Judah. Unfortunately, he got knocked out by Tyszu. If I'm not mistaken, this was back in 2001. Yep. So this is when Zab Judah, at the time frame, this is like prior to Floyd Mayweather back then. Yeah, this was basically for Undisputed back then. So he could have been undisputed at 140, but unfortunately, Zab Judah, he lost in the second round to Tyszu. He got hit with a really hard shot, and unfortunately he lost that fight. But then Zab Judah, he went on to do bigger and greater things, where he won the super lightweight title or the super lightweight title at 140 again when he beat DeMarcus Corley. And then unfortunately, after defending it once, he lost it again to Corey Spinks, who was really good at the time frame, where Corey Spinks later then became the undisputed welterweight champion of the world with oh wait, actually no, oh yeah, basically Corey Spinks, I remember now. Corey Spinks at the time frame, he did beat Ricardo Mayorga. This is before the WBO was ever a thing, but before the WBO came in I think 2004. When was WBO created? Yeah, hold on. Created. Okay. Yeah, but the WBO was created in 1988, but it wasn't considered until I think late 2006, if I'm not mistaken, for Undisputed. I could be wrong on that, but if anybody could just give me the complete rundown. I know Stormy B Man, he's pretty smart on that, but I I'm not really too how should I say, too too knowledgeable to know that much of what the about the 1 belt, 2 belt, 3 belt, and 4 belt eras. So I just need to be better educated to know those proper dates. But I'm pretty sure the 4 belt era did not start until Jermaine Taylor won Undisputed, or actually no, I think it started with Bernard Hopkins and then Jermaine Taylor, and then the list goes on and on. I could be wrong though, but either way, I know at this time frame, this probably came to to the very end stages of the 3-belt era, where obviously Corey Spinks, he won the undisputed title back in 2003, and then leading forward, he beat Zab Judah. And then, leading forward into a rematch with Zab Judah, he gets knocked out. And Zab Judah obviously ended up becoming undisputed once again. Oh, and then on top of that, he also beat Lucas Matisse too, which is a very, good win at that time frame. But yeah, I mean, Zab Judah, he's done everything correctly. He's had a very, very good career. I mean, obviously that the problem is that he lost undisputed, the first go around to Tyszu, which was a super fight at that time, and Tyszu unfortunately knocked him out. But moving forward with his next few fights, he won a WBO, and then he unfortunately lost those titles, again. But that was he lost his title because he moved up in weight. I'm sorry. Yeah, so Zab Judah, he moved up in weight to fight Corey Spinks the first go around because he wanted to become undisputed at welterweight. So, moving forward, this is when he re-challenged for those belts again, because this is before the 4-belt era ever existed. But the 4-belt era did not start until 2006, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody correct me on that. But yeah, he defeated Corey Spinks at that time frame to be the undisputed 3-belt era world champion. And then that's when he basically lost his belts due to whatever type of stripping or whatever business decisions that happened. But at that time frame, this is when he lost to Carlos Baldomir. That was for the WBC welterweight title when he was champion. And I don't know what happened with the WBA and the IBF. I believe he got stripped, and then that's where Floyd Mayweather, he came in to take away the IBF belt, if I'm not mistaken. And then this is where the super mega fight began between him and Floyd to be the man, of that division, in the welterweight division. So that's when Floyd beat him, and then after that he had a no contest with Ruben Galvan, and then this is where he fought Miguel Cotto. Back in 2007. Yep, that was only one time. Yep, that was back in 2007. That was a super mega fight, great fight. Got knocked out, unfortunately. But then after that, he had two tremendous back-to-back wins against Edwin Vasquez and Ryan Davis. I actually like the Ryan Davis fight. The Ryan Davis fight was a good fight. But that was a good fight. And then, unfortunately, he lost to Joshua Clottey, which that was a huge fight. And surprisingly, he did a very good job. And, unfortunately, I think it was due to, headbutts, being clashed. But, yeah, that was a good fight. And after that, he had a massive win streak, leading from Ernest Johnson to all these names that he beat. Out of these names, the Lucas Matisse fight was a very, very good fight. I had a very, very good time watching that fight back then. But then after that, that's when he unfortunately lost to Amir Khan, and he wasn't really there anymore. But his biggest win was obviously against Lucas Matisse, where nobody didn't want to fight him, and he basically beat him to a split decision. And then on top of that, he won the IBF super lightweight title again against Kaiser Mabusa. So that was a very good fight. The Amir Khan loss was definitely a heartbreaking loss, but after that, he went on to beat Vernon Paris, who was undefeated at the time. And Vernon Paris, if I'm not mistaken, he fought some decent opposition, but yeah, he only got knocked out once by Zab Judah, and then after that, he just never, he was never really, notable at all. So, yeah, either way, Zab Judah, he's had a good career, he's lost to some of, the best names out there, and, he did his thing. But let's talk about Tyszu's recent comment saying that this will be my Zab Judah moment if he were to ever face Jermell Charlo. Because he's really thinking that he has the ability to beat Zab Judah. And he thinks Zab Judah is not going to be that type of guy to, like, basically re-emulate himself as Jermell Charlo. Because he thinks Charlo will be like the same guy with like the same, similar attributes to Zab Judah. And I think the biggest issue with this fight is that, number one, Tyszu has no say to fight Jermell Charlo. And the problem with him is just that Jermell Charlo, he's not the type of guy to let any distractions hold him. And I think that if this fight were to get made between him and Tszyu, it would just be like the same fight between him and Brian Castano, honestly, in my honest opinion. I don't think Tszyu is that good of a boxer, and he's not that good of an inside fighter to handle the pressure from Jermell Charlo. And I just think Jermell Charlo, he's just more he's more gifted athletically as a person to do the things better for what Tszyu possesses. And I very well could be wrong on that, but the problem with Tszyu is that he leaves his head up way too high for his chin to get exposed, and he just has like a very predictable walk you down type of style, and I don't really see anything different out of him. Like, honestly, Tszyu is really not his father. His father knew how to box, and good enough. Tyszu had a very good, stellar career, but honestly, to really say about his resume wasn't really that interesting. And on top of that, Floyd Mayweather was gunning for him at the time frame. And I will never forget that Tyszu never really wanted any smoke with Floyd, no smoke with Miguel Cotto, no smoke with Shane Mosley at the time. I mean, Tyszu is probably no different from his own son, because it's like, that's really what his son's trying to do. He's trying to get this big opportunity fight, to think that, oh, well, if my daddy did it, then I could do it too, So therefore, he's just like thinking in his own, weird mindset, to think that he's just going to come out of his way and just be successful in what he does. And he thinks that Jermell Charlo is just going to basically be stupid by making a final title defense for his undisputed titles, and then he's going to move up to 160. See, now, the biggest problem that I have with this is that, why does the WBO quickly step in to say he has until June 20th, after celebrating his biggest win of his own victory against Brian Castano in a rematch? Why does he have to think about making a fight with Tszyu right away? See, now, they don't keep the same energy with fucking Canelo Alvarez when he beat Caleb Plant, but you're going to keep that energy different with Jermell Charlo. Do you guys see the racial politicization between black fighters and non-black fighters? To which, don't get it twisted, this has happened before in boxing to other people of different racial backgrounds, but the people that get affected the most when it comes to a black fighter, especially a black American undisputed fighter, they always want to shut them down. They always want to just take their shine away. They don't want them to rest up and actually think about what they want to do and actually think about what their future can be after. They just think oh, well, nah, man, black athletes need to be back inside the ring soon. But then when it comes to anybody that's not black, that is on the hope list, they treat those guys as if they don't need to work as hard to be there. And that's what gets me really pissed off, because it's black fighters have to do more just to keep their spot at the high level. Not to say that's always true, because it's look at Errol Spence. Errol Spence, he's unified with all 3 titles, but yeah, but the sanction bodies are still evil to the point where they want the black athletes to not be reigning divisions for that much longer. So they're trying to find ways to make them lose quicker. So therefore, they could just like give them all these tough ass opposition to the point where the opposition themselves are just draining their body to the point where they're having to get back literally, into fight camp, as soon as they get done with a fight, and then they have to like sacrifice more training and more physical, damage to the point where, they don't have like enough time to rest. And I think honestly, there needs to be a thing in boxing where you should have like a set time to relax and be comfortable, so that way you could be fully, recuperated. So therefore, your body doesn't break down. Because the biggest problem in boxing is that you have so many people that get into the sport and they're not obviously resting their bodies 100%. And I think honestly, correct me if I'm wrong, that's what causes people to end up getting killed in the sport. Because think about it with with a guy like Maxim Dadashev that lost to Subriel Matias. How many times did he fight out of that year before fighting Subriel Matias? And he ended up getting killed. So I think honestly there should be like a cutoff window of how many fights total that you should have throughout the year if your body can allow it, by being medically examined to the point where you're able to take that punishment. Because granted, don't get it twisted, there's been guys like Jack Johnson and all these old time fighters where these guys would be fighting like 40 plus rounds. Like literally back in the early 1900s or late 1800s, there was a time in boxing where basically there was a time where you would fight as many rounds as you can go until you get knocked out or you just can't continue, or it goes to a decision, depending on how people wanted to create the matches back then. But it's just like, obviously the biggest difference from there was that boxers today, they have a lot more skills, prepared, because, a good number of fighters have gone through the amateur system and they've learned how to box. So therefore, the level of competition that they fought from the amateurs leading to the pros have been a lot different. But versus, back in the old days, there was really no such thing as the amateur system. And the most competition that you would face would be in the pros early. So therefore, that's why you saw all those guys like Jack Johnson, Joe Louis, Sugar Ray Robinson, Gene Tunney, Jack Dempsey, all these old school fighters, they'd be mixing it up very early in their careers. But the downside is that a good number of those guys were fighting with like 4-ounce gloves, and then they were also taking a lot of damage, to the face too. So I mean, that's really the biggest problem in boxing compared to the past versus today, is that fighters, they don't have like a medical system that they go through, to which like they do before they get it, before they get ready for their next fight. Because I'm pretty sure commissions, all they do is that they screen fighters to a certain degree of how they feel how a fighter should be operated in their next fight. But the biggest problem with commissions, especially at the state and sanctioning body level, is that for these people, they don't really profession themselves to be very smart in their field to really determine how people are to be cleared for to be ready to fight. So the problem with sanction bodies and sporting commissions by each state is that every state has different rules for how fighters should be cleared, and the sanction bodies are basically being given political protection to the point where they're able to make up their stupid rules for a particular fighter that shouldn't be fighting on a on a consistent basis, And let's just say, for instance, that Mexican chick that unfortunately died. I think her name was Jeanette Zacharias, Zapata. But if you looked at her recent history, like leading up to her last fight, like where she passed away, she was fighting like upwards to like three back-to-back losses where she got knocked out, and there was like no cutoff in between where she didn't take any time off, and she was just taking damage within like a couple months time, like in between every fight that she lost. So I mean, either way, for stuff like that, that needs to be cleared up very, very fast, because obviously, at a marketized level in boxing, people should not be, approved to get back into the ring. You need to, like, you need to sit down and relax and rest your body, because taking all that punishment, within back-to-back losses, and you're not physically and mentally prepared to actually handle the amount of stress and the amount of punishment that you're taking in your fights. That's that's obviously breaking you down to the point where you're not able to perform well. So I think something like that needs to be implemented in boxing, where markets need to strictly take things over, and they need to start having better trained medical professionals to determine if you're able to fight or not consistently, and also put a lot of limitations on fighters on how many times that they could fight throughout the year, based off of their healthy status. So I mean, that's just something that I figured that I just put that out there. But on top of that, let's talk about Tyszu and Jermell Charlo. I think honestly, Tyszu's comments on Jermell Charlo was very weird, and I think the reason why he's saying that is because he really wants Jermell Charlo to defend his undisputed titles, and he thinks that Jermell Charlo would fight Tyszu, to which I don't really think Jermell Charlo really gives a damn about Tyszu. But it's like, even if he did, I think that fight would be a very, very good fight. But I think that fight's obviously going to be down in Texas or somewhere, neutral, to the point where Tyszu, he doesn't get any, political, a political mistreatment, on the scorecards. But I think Jermell Charlo, he wouldn't mind taking that fight. I just think Charlo, at this point, he doesn't really need to be fighting like another tough opponent, because it's honestly, you just won undisputed, so it's like you could either vacate some of your belts and then you could just fight some bum and then just move up to 160, because it's like, look, you beat everybody, in your division, so why do you got to beat another guy that thinks like, oh, well, you're ducking me, man, you're ducking me, bruh, when clearly that person's not even fighting everybody out of the division. And after Tyszu had fought Terrell Gausha, he got exposed, and Jermell Charlo even exposed him. He was like, bro, like, you got your ass beat the hell up by by a fucking journeyman, a guy that should have been a champion if he was able to beat Lara back in that time frame. But ever since then, Terrell Gausha, he's just been shit. So it's like, Terrell Gausha, he can't beat all the top names. But for him fighting Tyszu, that felt like a fight that Terrell Gausha should have won, but he blew it. He got his ass beat the hell up really bad, and Tyszu was just landing absolute bombs on him. But, I mean, for fights like that, where Tyszu is just getting beat up and he's getting exposed really, really quick, it just pretty much shows that Jermell Charlo, he will very well decapitate Tyszu. But either way, I'm not really, against the idea of having that fight made. It's just that, to a business level, why would Jermell Charlo want to fight somebody that he shouldn't be obligated to fight? Because Tyszu literally did nothing to be up there to be number one in the WBO. He fought mostly tomato can fighters leading up to Terrell Gausha. And to me, I find that to be very, very stupid, because it's like, you mean to tell me that some weird ass, Australian dude that no one ever heard of, very similar to the edge of, like, I don't even want to compare fighters to other fighters, but he's very similar to a Jeff Horn 3.0, if you know what I'm saying. Nobody never knew you, but the only reason why you're notable is because of your father. So similar to Jeff Horn, the only reason why people ever talk about him is because he got a like a quote unquote unanimous decision victory over Manny Pacquiao, to which many people thought Manny Pacquiao was winning that fight, but knowing how Australia is, Australia gifted him a decision, to which Jeff Horn thought, oh yeah, I beat Manny Pacquiao. And then guess what? After that, Terrence Crawford came up and he beat your fucking ass. He whipped your ass, knocked you out. You had nothing going on. That's it. So that's how I see Tyszu. He's just a one and done, no special effects level fighter, where he's just basically a C plus or B minus, level opposition fighter. That's just how I like to me. That's just how I see Tyszu. I don't see him to be this super ultra great high level threat, because it's like, if he really was a big threat, you would have been stomping through everybody in your fucking division. He has not done anything like that before. He's always been fighting guys that we already knew he could beat. He never fought Sebastian Fundora early in his career. He never fought Jamonte Clark when Jamonte was when Jamonte Clark was Jamonte Clark back then, when he was stomping through dudes where everybody thought like, oh man, this guy, he's just busting everybody up and all this crazy nonsensical stuff, but still Jamonte Clark, he was still lighting dudes up. And obviously, the biggest blemish on his career was getting a draw with Sebastian Fundora, to which many people thought he won that fight, and then unfortunately getting knocked out by Terrell Gausha, to which that knockout loss was a bit controversial, but either way, Jamonte Clark did a very, very good job doing what he had to do to try to get himself back up in there. But hopefully he can come back to the ring soon. But ever since then, it's just like, Tyszu, he's never fought the high-level, dangerous opposition names in the super welterweight division. And I think, honestly, the reason why he did that was because he knew what was going to happen to him. If you got dropped and almost got exposed by a much older version of Terrell Gausha, imagine what that same fight would have been if you fought Terrell Gausha during those years when he fought Erislandy Lara. Imagine. Because I don't think Terrell Gausha would have fought like that. I think Terrell Gausha would have either stopped Tyszu, or he would have just, basically decisioned him. But then again, we won't know, because Terrell Gausha fought Tyszu to a fight in which he could have won, but he got super exposed to the point where Tyszu almost knocked his ass out, because Terrell Gausha was being dumb and being mentally retarded. And then on top of that, Terrell Gausha, he just kind of looked like he just gave up. Like, literally, you had a fucking Australian come all the way out from Australia in your backyard, in which I don't think Terrell Gausha is from Minnesota, but still, you had a great population supporting you, and you just blew that shit. You got your ass beat the fuck up, man. You let some white boy from Australia beat your ass, and you had nothing to answer back. And honestly, I felt like Terrell Gausha, he just came to lay down. Literally, he just came to lay down. He has no, he has no more drive anymore. And I mean, honestly, that's simply due to the fact that he didn't want to be in there when the smoke got too hot for him. But it's like he had the fight in his hands, and he just gave it up. But that's how I see a Tyszu. He fights guys that either give up or just come to lay down. Because it's like he's not being tested. He's not being tested to the point where he's actually in a nip and tuck situation where he could very well lose, because Tyszu, he has the ability to go to that level, but he's really not going to that level because he's not being tested by the destructive situation. So, I mean, either way, like, I don't really care. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, it's just that Tyszu knows what type of fighter he is, and I think what's gonna happen is that Tyszu, he's gonna run into either Jermell Charlo or somebody dangerous out of his division, to the point, where he's gonna end up getting exposed and getting beat down. So, I mean, that's just me. Of course, I don't really think Jermell Charlo should really honor that title defense, but hey, I mean, if that fight does, very well end up happening next, I'm very well, interested of seeing that fight happen. Let Jermell Charlo have his little shine, and he could just end up fighting Tyszu in, I guess, early fall or late summer. I mean, either way, Jermell Charlo doesn't need to fight him. He could very well just go up to 160 and fight Erislandy Lara or fight anybody just to get his belts at 160. And I mean, for this article, from this weirdo, like a person that wrote it, he was trying to say Jermell Charlo won't get any bigger fights at 160, but I beg to differ. Like, honestly, 160 will be a much better division when more people move up from 154 to 160. So it may look weak now, but at the end of the day, Jermell Charlo versus Janibek will be a big fight in the future. I think Jermell Charlo will sleep his ass, and then I think Jermell Charlo versus Austin Williams. If Austin Williams can get his WBA belt, I think that will be a very interesting fight. And then for the WBC, obviously Jermell Charlo, he got the WBC, but I think Jermell, he's going to go through the WBC route, and then after that, he'll just unify for the IBF and WBA after Triple G vacates fighting Canelo, because obviously Triple G, he's not ever coming back to boxing, and I think Canelo and Triple G, that's going to be like Triple G's final fight, and I really hope it is, because Triple G is garbage, and he needs to be thrown into the garbage can. But either way, that's just how I see 160. 160 is going to be wide open for vacancy slots, and I think Jermell Charlo, he's in a better position where he can just get undisputed in two divisions, and then maybe in the future, we could see Jermell Charlo fight at 168. Who knows? But yeah, that's pretty much it, man. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think Jermell Charlo versus Tyszu will be a good fight to make before Jermell Charlo moves up to 160, or do you think do you think Jermell Charlo should stay at 154 a little bit longer to get big money fights and maybe fight some other big quality level names? But either way, let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys later. Alright, salute to the mighty LDBC. Bye.